Imagine looking at your bank account, right? And you realize that your massive 25 lakh salary offer actually leaves you, well, poorer and frankly more burned out than a job offering you significantly less money.
Yeah, it sounds mathematically impossible when you first hear it.
It really does. But we're all sort of conditioned to treat job offers like a high score in a video game. You look at that bold number at the bottom of the PDF, you compare it to your current number, and if it's higher, you take it.
Right, just grab it.
Exactly. But our mission in this deep dive is to unpack this massive stack of HR data, compensation calculators, global workplace studies, and insurance reports we've got here. We really want to expose the massive illusion that's baked into modern job offers.
It's a huge illusion, yeah.
Because the question you should be asking isn't just, what is your current CTC? The real question is, what is your total employment value?
I mean, it is the difference between reading a price tag and actually understanding an investment.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing a fundamental shift right now in how human capital is valued and,
Right.
crucially, how it's sustained.
So I want to ground this in a very specific scenario that we pulled straight from the compensation data.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine you have two job offers sitting on your desk. Both of them state a CTC of exactly 25 lakh. So let's look at scenario A. You get the 25 lakh, but you also get a 5 lakh family medical policy that covers your parents.
Oh, wow, that's big.
Yeah, and it gets better. You get 50 days of total leave, so we're talking 30 earned, 10 sick, and 10 casual. You get 2 lakh in annual L&D support, like for executive education, and you operate on a 5-day hybrid work week.
That is a highly integrated package.
Right. Now look at scenario B. Same exact 25 lakh CTC, but you only receive individual medical coverage, zero parental cover.
Ouch.
Yeah, you max out at 30 days of leave total. There is no meaningful L&D support. And the kicker, you are clocking in for a 6-day full-time office work week.
That is rough.
So no 2 to 25 lakh packages are the same. CTC is just a static number. Employment value is a living, breathing ecosystem. Scenario A is an employment experience, whereas scenario B is, well, it's just a wage.
What's fascinating here is that this perfectly illustrates a historical shift. We're moving from the 20th century loyalty contract to the modern lifestyle contract.
The loyalty contract.
Yeah, so the old model was highly transactional. You provided lifelong commitment to the company, and the company provided a baseline wage and job security. That was the deal.
Right, you stay for 30 years and get a gold watch.
Exactly. But the data shows modern employees are demanding a holistic structure, a structure that supports their entire life outside the office, not just their working hours.
But, to understand those lifestyle perks, we kind of have to endure a bit of hard math first.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the financial mechanics of why a 25 lakh CTC does not equal 25 lakh in your bank account, I mean, that is where the illusion really begins.
It's a rude awakening for a lot of people.
That really is. Offer analyzers are exposing how much inflation is just baked into that top line number. Because CTC includes your basic pay, your house rent allowance, variable pay, joining bonuses, and ESOPs.
The ESOPs are where it gets really tricky.
Yeah, I saw a wild detail in the data regarding those stock options. When modern calculators compare offers fairly, they frequently value ESOPs at just 10% of their face value.
And honestly, that 10% valuation is incredibly prudent.
Really? Just 10%?
Yeah, because ESOPs are completely dependent on future company valuations, vesting cliffs, liquidation events, all of that. If a company inflates your 25 lakh CTC by packing 5 lakh worth of illiquid stock options into it, they're essentially paying you in lottery tickets.
Wow. Lottery tickets.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot pay your landlord with an unvested stock option.
Fair point. But let me challenge the core premise here for a second.
Sure.
Even with the illusions and the variable pay, the highest CTC still seems like the safest bet to me. I kind of look at it like a car's dashboard.
Okay. How so?
Well, if the speedometer says the car can do 200 kilometers an hour, I want that car, even if I know traffic and potholes will slow me down, right? A bigger gross number implies a bigger net number at the end of the day.
That analogy actually works perfectly, provided you understand that in the financial world, those potholes and traffic jams are your deductions and your tax liability.
Right, the taxes.
And not all cars experience traffic the exact same way. Optimizing for net take-home and tax-sheltered benefits is mathematically vastly superior to just chasing a bloated gross CTC.
Because of all the mandatory cuts.
Exactly. You have Provident Fund contributions, e-sick, professional tax, and the standard 75,000 rupee deduction before the new tax regime slabs even apply.
Ah.
So if scenario B has a higher base salary but zero tax-sheltered benefits, the income tax friction is going to slow down your net take-home significantly.
Right, and there's this massive trap hiding in the payroll data regarding how we handle the time we actually don't take off, the leave encashment
Oh, this
policies.
is a huge one.
Yeah. Say you are grinding away in scenario B and you don't take your 30 days of leave. You decide to cash them out at the end of the year while you are still employed. The data shows that money is fully taxable as salary income. You get absolutely hammered by taxes.
Yeah, the mechanism there is treating the encashment as supplemental income. The government basically views it as a bonus, so they are taxing it at your highest marginal slab.
But if you hold on to those leaves until retirement or resignation, the rules change entirely.
They do.
The government currently offers tax exemptions on leave encashment up to 25 lakh rupees when you exit. So an employee who understands the mechanics of the ecosystem, they treat their leave balance as a tax-free retirement vehicle rather than a heavily taxed annual bonus.
It perfectly illustrates why evaluating an offer requires looking past the upfront numbers. You have to understand the underlying mechanisms of how that money is treated over time
Right.
and how the company actually structures those vehicles for you.
So the concept of time is actually the perfect pivot here. You might figure out all the tax loopholes and you might earn the exact same net pay in scenario A and scenario B, but what is the denominator?
The hours.
Exactly. How many hours of your actual life are you trading for that net pay? The 5-day versus 6-day work week debate is the heavy anchor of your total employment value.
It is the central tension of the modern workplace right now.
Scenario B has you in the office 6 days a week. And look, from a pure archaic industrial standpoint, I understand the logic.
Sure, the factory mindset.
Right. If I own a factory, 6 days of running the machines produces more widgets than 5 days of running the machines. If everyone is working less in a 5-day or, even a 4-day week, the business model seems like it would just collapse.
Right, but that factory model assumes human beings operate like machines, where input directly equals output in this perfectly linear fashion.
Which we don't.
No, not at all. The research we analyzed shows the mechanism behind human cognitive labor is entirely different. A 6-day workweek often promises more output, but the physical and psychological toll eventually breaks down the system.
It just grinds you down.
Exactly. What a 6-day week actually delivers is chronic fatigue, heightened cortisol levels, and severely degraded morale. When a knowledge worker lacks adequate recovery time, their executive function declines, their error rate spikes, and their long-term productivity just plummets. They end up doing 6 days of work at 60% capacity.
So they are present, but they aren't producing.
Precisely. The 5-day week provides a vital psychological mechanism, the mental reset. Without 2 consecutive days off, an employee suffers from what clinical psychologists call anticipatory stress.
Anticipatory stress. What does that look like?
So if you only get Sunday off, you spend Sunday morning physically recovering from the exhaustion of the previous week, and then Sunday evening, you're gripped by the dread of Monday morning.
Oh, the Sunday scaries.
Exactly. The brain never fully detaches from the workplace.
We looked at this massive European workplace study that quantified this exhaustion perfectly. Workers in some of these countries are averaging 40.4 hours a week on the job.
That's a lot of hours.
Let's do the math on a 24-hour day here. You subtract the work hours, subtract the commute, subtract the average 7.1 hours of sleep. An employee is left with about 7.5 hours a day for literally everything else.
That is barely any time.
Cooking, eating, exercising, socializing, parenting. It's no wonder 78% of people in these studies report the line between their private and professional life is entirely blurring.
And that blurring is precisely why the push for a 4-day work week is gaining immense traction globally.
Yeah.
I mean, the demographic data is stark.
Yeah.
93% of Gen Z and 91% of millennials strongly favor shorter work weeks.
Speaking of that, there was a fascinating pilot program in Brazil testing the 4-day week.
Called the Brazil study, yeah.
The results showed that 98% of the employees involved wanted to maintain it permanently.
I mean, of course they did.
Right. You usually can't get 98% of a room to agree on what to order for lunch, let alone completely restructure their professional lives. But my question is, how did the companies survive the lost hours?
Well, they survived, and in many cases actually thrived, because they shifted their metrics. Forward-thinking organizations are moving away from tracking hours in a chair and moving toward tracking outcomes.
He's focusing on what gets done.
Right. The Brazilian pilot forced a ruthless prioritization of tasks. Companies eliminated bloated meetings, they reduced administrative busywork, and they implemented what is known as Parkinson's Law.
Remind me, Parkinson's law is the one about time, right?
Yeah, it's the adage that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion.
Oh, right.
So when teams knew they only had 4 days, they became incredibly efficient. They achieved the same or better outcomes without all the burnout.
So when an employee gains that time back, whether through a 5-day or a 4-day week, where is that extra time going? For the vast majority of professionals, it is funneled directly into family responsibilities,
Absolutely.
which forces us to look at how companies actually protect that family. This brings us to the next massive differentiator in our two 25 lakh scenarios, which is healthcare for dependents.
The family ecosystem is rapidly becoming the ultimate deciding factor for top-tier talent.
The statistics on the healthcare landscape are just jarring. Only 41% of Indian households have any health insurance at all.
That is a terrifying statistic.
It is. Meanwhile, medical inflation is compounding at 12 to 15% annually.
And the compounding nature of that inflation is what creates the real crisis here.
Oh, so.
Well, when costs rise at 15% year over year, the price of a critical surgery or a prolonged hospital stay doubles in roughly 5 years.
Oh, wow. Double.
Yeah. A single unexpected medical emergency for an aging parent can literally wipe out a decade of an employee's savings overnight.
Okay, let me pose a hypothetical based on our scenarios then.
Okay.
Let's say I take scenario B. I have a 6-day week and no parental coverage, but maybe I negotiate a slightly higher net pay. Couldn't I just take that extra money and buy my own health insurance policy for my parents? Isn't a policy just a policy regardless of who buys it?
Mechanically, no, it's not.
Really?
Individual health policies for senior citizens are notoriously strict and heavily underwritten. They almost always include 2 to 4 year waiting periods for pre-existing diseases.
2 to 4 years, that's a long time to wait.
Exactly. If your father has hypertension or a history of heart issues, an individual policy simply will not cover anything related to his cardiovascular system for years. You are basically paying premiums for a policy full of exclusions.
And the company policy operates differently than that.
Drastically differently. Group health insurance, provided by an employer, leverages the risk pool of the entire company.
Ah, right.
Because of this, insurers generally cover pre-existing diseases from day one. There are no waiting periods. There are no immediate exclusions for chronic conditions.
That is a game changer.
It is. And companies are finding sophisticated ways to balance these premium costs too. They offer the coverage through voluntary add-ons or, copay models where the employee covers a small percentage of the final bill.
Yeah.
Or super top-up plans that only activate after a base limit is exhausted. The sheer utility of a day-one group policy, it just cannot be replicated on the individual market.
So the difference in the employee's daily experience is massive. We hear so much about cognitive load in productivity circles. Think about the cognitive load of the employee in scenario B.
It's heavy.
They are sitting at their desk trying to write complex code or balance a Q3 ledger, but humming in the background of their brain is the knowledge that their diabetic parent is one bad fall away from bankrupting the family.
Yeah.
You cannot focus when your brain is running a background process of chronic survival anxiety.
It is impossible to innovate under those conditions. You just can't.
But in scenario A, the parents are covered, and increasingly parents-in-law, which the data shows is a massive cultural shift in benefits. The cognitive load vanishes, the background anxiety is muted.
And this specific benefit fundamentally shifts the employer's role in the employee's life.
How do you mean?
Well, the company transitions from being merely a wage provider to becoming a family protector.
A family protector. I like that.
Yeah, and the retention data shows it is relatively easy to leave a wage provider for a competitor offering a slightly higher wage.
Sure.
But it is incredibly psychologically difficult to leave a family protector, especially when your parents' medical security is tied directly to your employment status.
That makes total sense. So we've protected their time, and we've protected their family's health. Now we have to look at what actually happens to the employee between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. How does the company invest in their future and their daily workplace experience?
This brings us to the final ecosystem pieces, learning and development, and a really fascinating sociological concept called internal marketing.
Let's start with L&D. Scenario A offers 2 lakh in annual L&D support. The sources indicate we are far beyond the era of sending employees to, like, a generic afternoon seminar.
Oh, way beyond.
We're looking at executive education reports where companies are sponsoring comprehensive postgraduate diplomas that are fully equivalent to an MBA.
The sheer scale of corporate education right now is staggering. One corporate report we analyzed showed a company's workforce logging over 117,000 learning hours in a single year.
117,000 hours. That's incredible.
It is. That is an organization actively engineering the upward mobility of its own staff. It allows employees to climb the corporate ladder without having to resign and take on the massive debt of full-time schooling.
But the L&D is just the tangible skill-building part, right? The more nuanced element of the daily experience is detailed in this brilliant study out of South Africa focusing on financial advisors.
Right, the internal marketing study.
Yeah, the researchers introduced this concept of internal marketing. Usually, marketing is how a company sells a product to an external customer.
But the premise of internal marketing is that employers must actively market the value of the job to their own employees.
To maintain engagement and reduce turnover. So the researchers broke this down into 4 pillars. First is the internal product, meaning the actual daily work you do feels meaningful. Second is the internal price, which is the CTC, the tangible pay and benefits we've been talking about.
But the findings revealed something really interesting. True, long-lasting employee satisfaction doesn't actually stem from the product or the price.
Really?
Yeah, the highest variance in job satisfaction came from the other 2 pillars, internal people and internal political power.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first read internal political power, it sounded incredibly toxic.
That's terrible, right?
It sounds like corporate backstabbing, hoarding information and playing games in the break room to get a promotion.
It does sound completely Machiavellian,
Oh.
but in the context of organizational psychology, political power has absolutely nothing to do with manipulation.
Okay.
It is entirely about agency.
Walk me through what that actually looks like for the financial advisors in that South African study. What does a day in the life of an employee with high internal political power look like compared to someone without it?
Well, let's look at an advisor with 0 internal political power first.
Okay.
They are handed a list of clients, told exactly what script to read, forced to use a clunky software system they hate, and they are given arbitrary sales targets by a manager who never, ever asks for their input.
They are just a cog in a machine.
Exactly. They're merely executing tasks.
That sounds utterly demoralizing.
It is. Now look at an advisor with high internal political power. They are invited to sit on the committee that selects the new client management software.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And when leadership wants to change the sales targets, they hold a feedback session and actually adjust the targets based on the advisor's ground-level insights.
So they actually listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
This employee has the psychological safety to voice dissent without fear of retaliation. Their voice has real weight. They have influence over how their ecosystem operates.
They are a stakeholder in a community, not just a cog.
Precisely. And the internal people pillar supports this agency. It measures social inclusion, having colleagues you genuinely trust, and feeling a profound sense of belonging. Right. The South African study proved that when financial advisors felt they had trust with their peers and agency with their leadership, their perceived value of their job just skyrocketed.
Because they actually matter.
Exactly. A bloated CTC cannot buy you out of a culture where you have 0 political power and no trusted colleagues. The burnout is inevitable.
So we have meticulously walked through these 2 very different 25 lakh realities. The illusion of the flat number is completely gone.
It's shattered.
But it raises a practical question. How do large organizations actually figure out what their specific employees want to build into this ecosystem? Because if you just ask people what they want, they will inevitably say they want a higher salary, more leave, and better insurance.
Right. Everyone wants everything.
Exactly.
So companies utilize advanced statistical modeling to find the truth. A major global workplace study we reviewed highlights the use of conjoint research.
Conjoint research. How does that force a more honest answer than a standard survey?
Well, conjoint research forces trade-offs. It groups benefits together into varying packages and asks employees to rank them.
Oh, I see.
So would you rather have a 10% pay bump combined with a 6-day week, or maintain your current salary on a 5-day week with a premium family medical plan?
Ah, making them choose.
Right. By forcing employees to choose between competing variables, companies can pinpoint exactly what their specific workforce values most.
And the data shows those preferences fracture entirely along demographic lines, right?
Absolutely.
Because what a 24-year-old single software engineer values in a conjoint survey is radically different from what a 42-year-old middle manager with 2 toddlers and aging parents is willing to trade for.
It varies wildly across gender, generation, job level, and crucially, caregiving status.
So bringing this all together, the takeaway for anyone listening to this deep dive is a fundamental shift in perspective.
Definitely.
The next time you are sitting across a desk in a salary negotiation or, looking at an offer letter or PDF on your screen, you cannot just look at the dashboard top speed.
You must audit the entire ecosystem.
You have to interrogate the offer. What is the leave policy and what is the encashment reality?
Yeah.
Are you offering me stock options at face value or actual liquid compensation?
Right.
Does the healthcare setup cover my parents from day one, or is it just full of waiting periods? Are we operating on a 5-day or 6-day culture? And most importantly, will I have the internal political power to shape my daily life, or am I just a resource to be managed?
If the lifestyle contract continues to evolve at its current trajectory, we might soon see a future where employment packages become entirely modular.
Modular, like building block.
Exactly. Imagine a future where you can actively trade portions of your CTC on a month-to-month basis through an internal portal.
Oh, wow.
You have a base salary, but as your life stages change,
Hmm.
you fluidly trade 5% of your pay for an elder care module when your parents fall ill.
That would be amazing.
And then a year later, maybe you trade that module in for educational credits to fund your master's degree, or you trade it for an extra 4 weeks of paid leave when you welcome a child.
It's totally customized.
The defining question of your career will no longer be what your company pays you today, but how fluidly they will adapt to who you become tomorrow.
Will your next job adapt to who you become tomorrow? Something to think about.